Average baby boomer is 67, 68 years old. They own 60% of the businesses in this country.
Hello and welcome to our podcast series, CPAs Unplugged. Today I'm here in the Windy City in Chicago, and we have a very special guest, the president of the Visionary Group. We have Bob Lewis. Bob, welcome to the show. So Bob's a good visionary guy. So Bob, I can talk a lot about you and I've read a lot of things. Why don't you talk about yourself? What's the vision that the president of the Visionary Group has?
Okay, so I've been at this for a long time. We just work with the accounting and CPA firms nationwide.
That sounds boring.
Almost 30 years now.
Okay.
It sounds boring, doesn't it? Okay, so if you look at this industry, I actually used to be an accountant a long time ago. And I started off with manual trial balances. And if I look at what's like the technology being used, what firms are doing now, and all the regulatory stuff that they're doing, massive change in just a pretty short window of time. Absolutely. When you really look at this thing. But what we're seeing now, like if you look at the visionary part, here's what I'm looking at. Firms have transformed from being kind of sleepy accounting firms to, I'll use the word, I'll steal it from
tech firms.
Tech firms, and a little sexier, right? And a little sexier tech firms. Okay.
Absolutely.
So technology is like a big centerpiece now inside these firms. What I never saw coming, which we should have all seen, is the massive staffing shortage. So we got a big staffing shortage. We got technology coming into the market. We've got a lot of the compliance kind of work being automated. So really what's happening is firms are transforming into advisory centers that also do accounting, tax, audit work, and provide a lot of other services for the clients. And that didn't exist that many years ago. Now the big four, some of the larger firms have had these advisory arms for a long time. But you look at, so the top 500 firms in this country, smallest one's about 5.5 million. There's 45,000 CPA firms in this country, ballpark, according to Inside Public Accounting and Accounting Today. And they really don't have a 100% handle, but we're using that number. 43,000 of them are less than $1 million. So I got 2,000 firms out there from $1 million on up. And if I got my top 500 is $5 million on up, you can see how the pyramid scale goes, right? So how do you make the investments to provide advisory and outsourcing, all the recruiting now, since we have a staffing shortage, going in and investing in offshoring or nearshoring or insourcing, depending on how you define that thing. It's too difficult for
Absolutely.
a $3-4 million firm to figure it all on their own. Now, lay in another factor. Average baby boomer is 67, 68 years old, okay? They own 60% of the businesses in this country. So if you apply that to the CPA profession, a lot of the ownership of these CPA firms, heavily owned by aging baby boomers. What's their exit strategy if I got a staffing shortage and I've got a lot of investments to make and I have a little changing in the culture of not everybody wants to own anymore. So it's like a perfect storm. So now we've got, a couple of years ago, private equity sweeping into this thing, going, okay, we're going to buy accounting firms. So why does private equity want to buy accounting firms? By the way, we're heavily involved in that now. We're against it at the beginning. Now we understand why. Why do you think a private equity firm would want to buy an accounting firm?
Trying to maybe consolidate the market, but this is too disaggregated to consolidate.
Part of it's consolidation. The other part of it too is I got repeat business forced. I have to do a tax return. I have to do the accounting. I have to do the assurance work, right?
Cross-selling, billing.
Big issue, the cross-selling. So a lot of firms don't really penetrate into their client base very heavily beyond the services that they provide. And if I'm a smaller firm, or even a $10, $15, $20 million firm, which I think is a pretty large entity, how do they have the investments to be able to start being consultants when they've been trained for the most part to be accountants?
Absolutely.
Big transformations happening. So I can't imagine what this thing is going to look like in about 15 years. I will probably be out of it by then, to be quite frank. But if I'm still in it, maybe a sad but powerful case. I don't know, because I'm getting up there too myself. But when you look at this, these are going to be just all advisory centers. Technology is going to dominate it. But what the mistake is, everyone's thinking technology is going to eliminate the services. Like they won't need accounting, tax, or audit. No, it's just
too compliance driven, yeah.
But it's just going to change the model. You just won't be putting the numbers together anymore.
You're doing audit sampling, so you sort of test the entire population with data analytics.
Yeah, exactly. That's the path. You're going to start looking at these things from an analytical perspective. You're going to look at them as a consultant's eye, and you're going to be having conversations with the client about how to grow their business in many different.
So Bob, just to pause you here, right? So, and I love that entire direction of travel, right? How do accounting firms position them as tech firms And I think, how do you bring about that mindset change? And I tell you what we're doing at Miles, it's sort of a step towards that direction, is when you're looking at accounting education, we're saying accounting education needs to be STEM, it needs to be tech. The purpose of that is, of course, to make accounting more glamorous, get more candidates in. But that's exactly what the profession is, right? We are not bean counters and doing what happened last year, right? So accounting is more about predictive, what's going to happen next year, right? When you're talking about corporate finance or inside of the company, management accounting. Even when you're looking at public accounting, audit is, of course, you're still responsible, you're still representing public interest, but the deal is, how do you make that audit more effective and efficient? Tax is not just about filling the return, it's about how do you save tax dollars, right? So, but the deal is, the accounting profession somehow is conservative, for lack of a better word. How do you break that barrier?
It's going to have to phase out. So you've got a changing of the guard going on. You always have a changing of the guard going on as people age out. Right now, we've got a large aging population moving out, new leadership coming in. And with that new leadership that comes in, there'll be more movement towards technology, and more movement towards advisory, a different approach to how they begin the business. So right now, as an example, we see in firms across the country, pricing's a big issue. They're like, well, our clients won't pay for that.
And pricing, again, is basically in terms of the hours and billing rates. It's not with tech, right? You don't use tech as a base. You don't price yourself like a tech firm.
I'll give you a really good example. One of our firms that we're talking to, good sized firm, partner, sharp partner, been at it for 30 years, partner in charge of tax. He goes, I went and saved my client $250,000. He saved $250,000 in tax savings for the client. He said it took him about 30 minutes to do it. Now, he didn't tell the client it took him 30 minutes. He's like, how do I charge for that? How would you charge to say, if you saved the client $250,000, but it didn't take you a lot of time, how do you charge for that? Great question. Now, my answer to that is you have to charge more than the hourly rate, but you also have to look at your engagement letters and how you set things up. But why he was able to save him $250,000 in 30 minutes is because it took him 30 years to figure out how to do it. So why would you give that away? Even if he was charging $1,000 an hour, why would you give that away for $500? That's where this profession has a problem right now. They're also they're just assuming what the client will and will not pay. Now, basics here, supply and demand. So if we have a supply and demand world, which we do kind of live in, right? You ever wonder why gas prices go up in the summer? Because there's a shortage. No, because they can know that people are going to drive more and they're going to charge more for it, right?
Absolutely.
We have a major supply and demand imbalance in this industry right now. So if I have a staffing shortage and I got rising technology costs and I got to invest in outsourcing in other areas and I got to pay my labor more, my demand is not gone down. My costs have gone up. So if I have a supply that's shrinking, I have to charge more for it.
Absolutely.
But the people that have a mindset of, well, our client won't pay for that. Either you've got the wrong client,
or you're not even asking.
Or you're not asking, or you don't have the right selling skills. All fixable situations. But the problem is when you don't charge the right amount, I learned this from one of the managing partners of a very large firm, smart individual. My partners are having the same problem. They're sitting around the table going, well, we can't charge these people more because they won't pay, and they're a legacy client. And he's like, okay, here's the deal. If you don't want to charge them more, great. But the difference between what you should be making for that client and what you are making, I'm taking that direct line of compensation. Because what happens is I have a whole staff now and I have all these investments I need to make, and if I'm not charging enough, I can't pay the staff enough, I can't make the investments in technology, and you're hurting the whole firm.
Interesting.
The funny part was he said every single partner complied immediately.
Wow.
Well,
that's an amazing hack.
Well, yeah, but it's because I'm now threatening your income.
Yeah.
Okay? If you want to make the decision not to charge me more, that's okay.
Basically, you need to get people out of their comfort zone.
Yes, 100%. Because, you see, look, everybody stereotypes, okay? If you look at, what's your opinion what a banker does, or a lawyer does, and an accountant does? So everybody stereotypes, and there's so many differences between bankers and lawyers and CPAs and any other industry, right? So the people inside all those firms, like the people inside the banks and the law firms, whatever, they've got their own set of stereotypes and uniquenesses. And their stereotype may be, well, I wouldn't pay for that. Well, okay, you wouldn't pay for that, but the client may. And if the client doesn't pay for that, you probably do have the wrong client or you're not approaching it right, but you are hurting the rest of the firm. And in this marketplace right now, if we had a limited amount of people wanting to buy the services and we had too much staff, we'd be dropping prices.
Absolutely. Which
is what they used to do. Everyone used to figure out how can I outsell you by out-discounting you to get a client. Now, it's a different mentality. But if I've been doing this for 25 years with the mentality of what's it going to take to win the project versus what's the project really worth?
Absolutely.
Different skill set.
So Bob, taking a back seat, why is there a talent shortage? Why can't we find accountants?
There are a million answers to that question, but here's where I'm going to go. Okay, so the accounting profession didn't do the best job of public relations.
Branding themselves.
Storytelling.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So I'm a younger professional, and I hear in tax season you have to work 100 hours a week for 4 months. I'm
We'll
like,
get into this.
well, that's not a great story to tell. And even if I am working 100 a week or 80 hours or 60 hours, whatever your number is, right? I want to keep that story more to myself. I don't want to walk around with a badge of honor like I just worked 95 hours this week. Okay. So the type A people, they'll go for they're ready for that. They'll take it on, right? But not everybody's a type A person.
We're talking about Gen Zs here, where you don't have a lot of type A's.
Yeah, now we had a cultural shift with the millennials and the Gen. What they want is a lifestyle. And we're seeing pricing go up, labor costs will go up. So I'm like, well, I can make pretty good money and I don't have to put in 90 hours a week. So why would I want to do that? So think about decades of that conversation. So now we got kids going into school going, well, I don't want to do that. The other option now too, what didn't exist, go back 20 years ago, okay? You're going back into college 20 years ago. Were there that many options to go into cybersecurity or different areas? So we got to funnel, we got to reduce the number of people going into college. They go into college, the funnel they go into is they've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 more options to choose from when the traditional tracks were more limited. So I could get more people through accounting because I only had like 5 choices. Now they got 50 choices. So I'm thinning out the pool. The pool's thinning going into the college. When they get in, it gets even thinner because they got more pipes to go through to figure out which channel they go to. So my end result is I get less people graduating. And then you layer on that kind of not too sexy, you can work 90 hours a week for 4 months a year, and there's no stock options. That comes up a lot. So I hear this a lot from the West Coast firms, and I'm sure it's everywhere, but they can go into the technology company and get stock options. They may be worthless stock options, but it's pretty cool when I'm coming out of college going, well, I'm going to, the stock options, and I'll be worth $3 million by the time I'm 28. Company may go belly up, but
there's still an optimism, there's still hope.
Yeah, well, there's hope, and there is a lot of them that pay off. So, there's some limitations, and there's only so much the accounting firms can pay. They can't compete with this, aggressive stock options. That's where this industry's had some problems. But now they're all shifting more to the advisory side, so we're getting more diversified.
Got it.
So I don't have to work 90 hours a week for 3 months because I don't make all my money in that 3 or 4 month period. I can make it over a 12-month period. That's why the shift back to client accounting services is huge. 12 months worth of revenue stream. I look at client accounting services as the conduit that opens the door to advisory, because now I'm talking with the client more.
Got it.
And I
can really help them what's going to happen next year. How do you do this? How do you acquire a small shop? How do you raise more money? How do you optimize your capital structure?
Plus, when we're talking about your results, right?
So I'm not an accountant anymore. I'm an investment banker.
I'm an investment banker. I'm a consultant. And I'm listening to you, telling me what you're thinking about, what you're trying to do. I'm like, we can solve that problem. We've got that solution. I'm hearing your pain points, and we can handle that. Before you just thought I'm going to deliver your accounting work or your tax work, whatever, right? Now I can deliver more. So that's the shift you're talking about. Is how do you get me, who's a 15-year accountant? By the way, I'm not a 15-year accountant. Hire me for your accounting and tax work, and we're going to have to increase your liability. How do you get me to start to shift my training and my mindset over to be more consultative? Now, the other part is when I look at my CPE, most of the CPE training is very technical. They don't teach us soft skills. They don't teach me how to talk to a client or how to ask a client for pain points or how to network or how to build a book. The other part is, since I've had a shortage for 20 years, the old school was you would go out, build a network, bring in work. I'm like, whoa, I don't need you to do that because I got too much work to do already. So I've been spoon feeding you for 15 years with work. Now you're 40 years old and you want to be a partner. You've got no network and never made a sale. How am I supposed to make you a partner if I've just used you to grind out work for the last 20 years? And I don't blame them because, it's hard to stop. When you're making money and you've got a staffing shortage, you want to do what you can to do to take care of the client. But we've got a lot
You can do good delivery for me, you can run my ops, but how will you convince somebody to give me their business?
It's a very difficult conversation. People don't understand how hard it is to sell properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a difference between car salesmen, no offense to car salesmen, who are selling a product, versus consultative selling.
Yeah.
Whole different selling model. The value propositions are different. You have to know. Look, when we talk to clients, the one thing we're really trying to figure out is what you want to do. But I'm really trying to figure out what your pain points are. Because most people buy because they've got pain. Otherwise, they continue to do what they're doing over and over again and continue to make money until they start to have a pain point. Like, I have to make investments in technology I don't know how to make, or I'm getting older, I need to exit. What's your pain point? If you figure out the people's pain point, you can now begin to go, I think I can help you fix that problem. What's the most expensive thing you could sell? A solution to your pain. Okay? Because you're trying to figure out how to have a better life, smoother life, and if you got all these pain points blocking it and causing you problems, and I can solve those by figuring out what those are and providing solutions, now I can charge premiums for that because it's solving a major problem in your life, which is my life.
So I love the direction of travel here. So you're saying accountants are also techies? Accountants are also investment bankers and consultants?
Yep.
Accountants are also salesmen, or they also need to be salesmen to get to the manager or partner level, especially as they're moving up the value chain. And if we could sort of show that broad zone of accounting,
Yep.
perhaps that could help make accounting sexy again.
That's where it's going, though. That's where the larger firms who've merged and put themselves together now have more resources to be able to make investments in technology and training and bringing in people and doing consulting. That's where firms are heading. It's pretty hard to just be an accounting-only firm going forward. Now, there's firms that niche out there and like they just do accounting only, client accounting services, or they do tax only or tax in a specific industry niche. But that's where we see firms. The most valuable firms we see on the M&A side almost always have a service or industry niche that's deep. And that's why they're so valuable is they're really good at it. They attract the right kind of clients and they're really good at servicing them, as opposed to me servicing 20 different industries. Why do we only work with CPA firms and accounting firms? Good question. Let's ask that question. Bob, why do you only work with accounting and CPA firms?
Well, that's where the problem is.
Well, people ask me, why don't you guys work for law firms or engineering firms? Because I'm 80% effective in a law firm. The 20% I don't know about the law firm makes me a B. In an accounting firm,
you know everything.
I got everything.
Got it.
I got it because I got a deep, deep niche. Okay, and I think people A, will pay for that information, and B, because I can solve their problems.
So Bob, now just sort of going back to your previous life, sort of checking out your LinkedIn profile. You were a salesman who became an accountant.
Actually, I was an accountant all along, and I realized I was really good at. So I was an accountant that was really good at looking at numbers and be able to twist them and figure out how to tell a story.
Yeah,
I wasn't the guy to put all the numbers together as well. I was the guy that really could figure out how to look at the numbers and go, okay, this is what we need to do here.
Got it.
And then how I got into this stuff was just crazy. My wife and I, we've been in Chicago all our life. We moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. We were going to get a lifestyle change. This is a long time back, okay? We got there and we said, we gave up way too much. With family, friends, we were back in 9 months, okay? In that time I was down there, I started working for an accounting firm as a client services director. It was the first time they ever had that title. In fact, 2 years before that, it was illegal to market an accounting firm. So that's kind of how back.
Yeah. So what basically happened? So it was illegal to market accounting firms, and then it became
they changed
legal
the laws,
or quasi-legal.
Yeah, they changed the laws. You used to be able to just put an ad in the phone book. That was it. Now they made it you could just market a firm, right? Which was kind of new at the time. This is long before any things like Association for Accounting Marketing ever existed. So I got back here in Chicago and I said, I'm going to do this for CPA firms. First couple of years were not pretty.
So you're like an ad agency for CPA. I'm just saying that.
First couple of years were not pretty. And over the time, we've been doing this for a long time now, we've got this down to a science. And the interesting thing is you always think you know it until you find somebody else who brings something else to the table and you're like, why didn't I think of that? So we're constantly innovating. We're always looking for something different here. In fact, it was really funny because years ago, our company used to be called Visionary Marketing. Okay?
Amazing.
So we're at a trade show. We used to do trade shows back then. And we get this booth up and it's got the signs, it's Visionary Marketing. And people walking by and they go, no, we're good. We already have a website. And I'm like, there's nothing on that thing about a website. So remember I talked about stereotypes? Yeah. I stereotyped myself.
Got it.
Whatever their version of marketing was what we were. So I threw all that junk in the garbage the next day, and we renamed ourselves the Visionary Group, because what does the Visionary Group do? I don't know. I need to explain it to you.
Yeah. And
then they're like, oh, we don't know people. We didn't know people like you existed. But on Visionary Marketing, they already put me in a corner as a marketing group.
Got it.
Interesting.
So you cleaned the house first, right? You have to clean the house first.
We didn't really change any of the services. We just changed the
branding,
name.
the narrative, right? That's exactly what you're talking about here. The problem with the profession is narrative.
Yeah. Well, you go to a networking meeting if you're a CPA, right? Mm-hmm. And it says, Bob Lewis, Fred's Accounting, whatever it is, right? Immediately when you see that badge, you're like, oh, he's an accounting firm. I've got one of those. Everybody has an accountant. It may be their brother-in-law or their sister-in-law or whatever, but so you immediately hit the stereotype.
You started as a marketing firm, and now you are like an M&A advisory, and that's your major forte. And how did that evolution happen, or you just been trying to figure it out?
It was all about growth. It wasn't marketing. We were growth. We all got to figure out how to grow, right?
Got it.
Part of the growth was all our merger and acquisitions. So I remember the first one we did was some firm in California. And I said, yeah, sure, we can find you another firm to acquire. I'm like, okay, I had no idea what I was talking about. And shockingly, we found them another firm to acquire. Deal worked out really well. We hardly charged them anything for it. And we're like, well, we can do this. And then we learned to refine and refine and refine over the last, 15, 20 years on how to do this. We help these firms figure out if they can pull off a succession. So the first thing, a lot of firms want to remain independent, but not everybody can. So can you pull off a succession? If not, you want to see what you need to do to get ready to merge up or sell or whatever you need to do, right? And then we've always done the growth thing. We've just changed our growth. So we do this fractional chief operating officer for firms now. We'll come in and figure out, okay, what's the direction you need to head? Here's the steps. And then we help them implement it. And that could be, maybe they need to offshore. Maybe,
so let's say if you go to a CPA firm today, Bob, what are the top few metrics or top 5 metrics that you would want to look at, whether this is a good firm or not? I know it's very difficult. It's not a straight answer, but...
Well, we have a whole metrics program, so it's not difficult. It's an easy one, okay? So we look at one core metric. We call it revenue per professional head. And here's how we define it. Say it's a $10 million firm. I'm rounding numbers to make this easy, okay?
Sure.
$10 million firm, and it's got 50 full-time equivalent accounting professionals. $200,000 revenue per professional head. We have firms that are at $500,000. We got firms that are $125,000. So our first metric is, what is your professional
Very
head?
interesting. Very interesting.
All right.
Love it.
Now, after that, if we see the firm has a pretty high revenue per professional head, the only thing we look at is possibly as a loophole is how many production hours are being billed by the partners. So if I got partners billing 2,500 hours each, they're artificially increasing the revenue per professional head.
Got it.
So once we get past that, now we look at 5 to 6 other, what we call metrics in a firm. Okay? Those are drivers that impact the revenue per professional head.
Got it.
Underneath each of those metrics, there's levers. So here's a really good one. Cash. Always look, cash is an important thing. So we look at cash flow. Now, if I have a firm that is having trouble with collections, I have a firm that may be taking too long to get a bill out, I have a firm that is not pricing properly, that's going to impact all of my cash flow. So if you look at each of those levers one at a time, right, start fixing one of the levers, you now begin to increase the cash flow, which increases where I'm going to go with the revenue per professional.
Absolutely.
I look at my client mix, I look at pricing strategies, we look at training is different, and each firm's going to have maybe some different metrics that support that revenue per professional head. You can build your entire growth program around this.
Amazing.
That's the simplest way to approach it. We've done this wrong so many times over the years. We figured out a really smart way to do it. And the smart way to do it is by bringing in the metrics to go, okay, let's look at the metrics. What's the drivers under these metrics and the levers pushing them, and fix them one at a time. Everybody tries to just, let's do blanket repricing. I had a firm talk to me the other day, go, how much should we raise our fees?
How scientific have you made it, Bob? I mean, like a credit score. Can it be a score that all the 40,000 CPA, accounting firm?
Yeah.
I know this is very tricky, but...
Okay, so here, look at pricing. Why would you increase your fees by 20% across the board? So I got A-level clients who are paying me premium money. And say I've got a $100,000 client, I give them a 20% fee increase, and now it's $120. And I got a $1,000 client, I give them a $200 increase. What's the logic to that? How do you build the enterprise value of a firm is what every firm should be looking at doing. Okay? I should build a firm so that I'm being able to sell it upward, merge it upward, sell it internally.
But that's not the mindset, right? The mindset is built to run. The mindset is not built to sell. I mean, even if you were to run it, if you had a built to sell mindset, that could be a big game changer, right? I mean,
it's where firms are all heading now, because the problem with the other model, it works when you have an unlimited supply of people and you're not having to force to make these investments in technology and advisory. It's a different world. If you're just cranking the same stuff through, it works. So one of the problems we do see in firms, this is our analogy, so forgive me if it's stealing somebody else's that I didn't know. I'm a partner that's 5 years out from wanting to retire. I'm making pretty good money, or whatever I think is good money. I've done all my calculations. I just need to make that money for the next 5 years. So think of a rowboat in the middle of a still lake. I got the oars in the boat. I see the dock. I see the house at the end of the dock that I want to go into when I retire.
Okay.
I just want the boat to gently roll into the stream, into the shoreline, and I want to get out. I don't want you throwing rocks in the water. I don't want to put oars in the water. I don't want to make any changes because I've done my 5-year calculation. So if I can just make this much money for the next 5 years, I don't have to do anything different, I'm good. The problem with that is I'm not making investments in the firm. I'm not making changes in the firm. I'm not keeping up with what's happening in the industry.
Got it.
So when my 5 years come, in the past, I've been able to get out of my firm. Somebody just, went into a deferred comp program. I get my buyout. But right now, the deferred comp programs are almost all unfunded, right? So if I'm a partner in a firm, I'll have maybe a 10-year deferred comp program where they're going to retire and they're going to pay me out over a 10-year period X amount of dollars. Those are all unfunded. Not all, but most unfunded. So I've got this growing liability. I got aging partners. I got a larger group of baby boomers aging. At deferred comp
Basically, I have legacy problems, which is as much as I'm getting a brand because I'm a legacy and I have old clients. Yep. I have so many legacy problems, and how do I fix this?
Well, hopefully I can get out of it before it all hits me in the face. But sometimes they're getting hit in the face with it.
Got it.
And I forgot who said this, and I'm going to butcher this line, but somebody said everyone's got a plan for getting punched in the face until they get punched in the face. Okay, and then the plan falls apart, and they're like, "Oh, that hurts." What we're seeing right now is it's a great industry. First of all, if I was a younger professional, I would get into this industry like crazy. It's so profitable. It's turning more advisory. It's really a great industry to be in.
It's an opportunity because things are broken, right?
Well, they're kind of broken, but they're making good money. So I think things are broken when I'm like, well, I'm making like $23,000 a year as a partner in a firm. Well, that's probably broken. Okay?
So I think that's again something which is not out there. So how much money do you think an average partner in a CPA firm makes?
Ooh, that's a very loaded question. So we've seen firms with making $75,200 a partner. I've seen firms that are making over $1 million a partner.
What do you think your best guess of an average partner remuneration?
Okay, it's almost impossible to answer that question because it depends on the size of the firm.
Okay, let's talk about mid-sized firm. Let's say 200 mid-tier firms.
If I had a stereotype from all the firms we talked to, 300 to maybe 4.
In a lot of ways, you're saying the CPA firms, the accounting industry, the entry point is not as exciting. It's maybe instead of making up 80,000 or 100,000, you're making up 65, 70, sort of making a little less upfront. But ultimately, you'll actually make a lot more money. But nobody's talking about that, right? Everybody's talking about entry salaries.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about the long busy season hours. They're not talking about the hours, right? When the busy season is done, it's like 2 months, you have nothing to do.
Paint the picture.
Yeah.
Paint the picture better. I mean, but not everybody wants to paint the picture. People want to make, they're going to maximize compensation immediately. And you're seeing right now in this marketplace, unfortunately, you're working for this firm and you're doing a great job, but okay. And then I call through LinkedIn or recruiting or whatever, and I'm like, hey, how would you like to work for us for $20,000 more doing the same thing? And by the way, you can probably work from home. Attractive offer if I'm making $60,000 or $65,000 a year and you're offering me $75,000, $80,000, $85,000 a year or $100,000 or whatever the number is, right? People are moving if they don't see the vision inside the firm.
Now tell me, why can't I add stock options there and put some value in? Because anyways, everybody who spends, let's say, so how long does it take for a staff to become a partner? Typically, what's the average?
Oh God, it's
10?
At least 10.
10.
At least 10.
So if I give stock options and I put a number, a dollar number to that you become a partner or manager and you get, or director, and then you...
Yeah. I mean, more so than like a stock option, because I really don't like, unless you get into like some of these other firms where they got stocks. But
it could be a phantom stock.
Yeah, it should be a bonus program, and it should be what my track to partnership really should be. How do I become a partner firm? It's very unclear. Like, I have to build a book of business. Do I buy a book of business? How do I buy into the firm? One of the things we do a lot with the succession consulting is to figure out what the cost of buy-in is. So let's just say you have a $10 million firm and I want to buy 10% of it. The market value on your firm will make it easy. We'll just say 1 times value. We're not going to get into valuations, but I'm buying $1 million worth of your firm. How am I going to afford to buy $1 million worth of your firm? It's virtually impossible. So you could gift me 10%, I could start getting distributions and paying you back, but then you're gifting me the whole buy-in. Okay. Or I can buy in at maybe $250,000 or $400,000 for the $1 million worth of stock and invest it over like a 10, 15 year period before I get fully vested. There's different ways to approach it, but the problem is the cost of barrier. It's like, why doesn't a new car company open up overnight anymore? Huge cost to get in to open up a car business, right? Same thing as to become a partner in a firm. The cost is getting higher and higher. So how do you admit a partner into a firm at a lower cost? Start off with income partners.
Bob, my question is more around entry-level accountants. How do I get more accountants into the profession? How do I make this entire partner track? How do I put a dollar number to the value of becoming a partner in 10 or 15 years to an entry-level staff accountant to attract him or her to get into my firm?
So two things. One, I know the ASCP is working on a whole program to be able to get more people to come into the programs, right? Right. I can't say I know their details on that program, but that's an addition.
They're trying to work on, I mean, everybody's trying to work on pipeline. Yeah. We've got a solution, but there's no full solution.
Right.
There's no...
You got to tell a better story to the people coming in, and when they get out, we're all fighting over the same scraps of people that do come out. And so if I'm a firm, I have to tell them a better story. They have to see a vision where I'm going with the firm. If the vision is you're going to sit there and do nonprofit audits for the next 10 years, I'm thinking, what's my career going to look like in 10 years? Because everybody thinks audits are going to go away, which is not true. But
don't you think you should again become visionary marketing? I mean, you should have a vertical, really branding the firms. I mean, sorry.
I got to stay in my lane. My channel will get too wide.
Okay.
But the thing is, they have to tell a better story.
Nobody's telling a story. Nobody's got time.
I have to see the firm I'm going into, that they're looking like they're advisory minded, that they're looking like they're progressive, that they're not just going to pigeonhole me and there's opportunities for me to grow. I think one of the biggest flaws in firms is training. They train me to be technically proficient, but they don't
train me branding and advertising and storytelling and I don't care about employer brand. I'm like, I'll work hard, I'll keep my clients happy, and my job's done.
Nobody's helping me with that. So I'm going to drift from firm to firm to firm, and I'll do the same thing. I make more money in another firm, same thing, and eventually, you know, I'm 15 years later, I'm 35, 40 years old. I'm like, I haven't really progressed my career track, because this industry has changed, and it's going to change even more. They've all started to realize, I got 1,000 installed clients. How do I sell them other services? You know, especially if my supply of labor continues to shrink. How do I, because I can get different labor markets now with different skill sets to do the consulting work, right? Or I can partner with groups and bring them in, which is what we show them how to do. Partner up with outside agencies first to bring them in to do the other services for your client base. Until you get enough of it, then bring somebody in full time, or buy a company that does that kind of work and bring that in. And the larger firms are doing that. There's some really cool firms out there. One of our clients they're in a group of 8. They got 8 firms that have banded together informally. They put money into a pot.
Wow.
They buy technology. They invest in programmers. They buy companies. They then use those companies and the services they do to go back into their 8 firms. And they also take and sell that independently to other groups.
Very interesting.
There's a lot of that stuff going on.
Very interesting.
Very smart people out there. Very smart people. That's why I said, when you think you've got it always figured out, never do. Never, because somebody said something else, you're like, oh, that was really smart. That was brilliant. And you're like, sometimes it's so obvious too. It's like, what did I think of it? Why did I not think of that before?
It's always best practices, and sometimes you have a second mover's advantage.
We're pretty smart. We're visionaries, right? Absolutely. Oh man, we learn everything from our clients. Everything. We hear them talk, and sometimes they're even saying stuff they don't even think is brilliant, but I'm like, this is just brilliant. That's how we got into the metric stuff. We started going through what all these firms are trying to do to figure out how to grow, and we're like, they're looking at this wrong. They're trying to figure out, how do I build this niche? What if they're missing the point about how do you even structure it to get to the point of wanting to build a niche and how to build it. And it took us a long time to figure that out, by the way. So I'd like to say they were really super smart.
So Bob, I again want you to wear your consulting hat on, and here I'm the CEO of Miles, and I'm talking to you about our model, where we're working with universities, converting accounting programs into STEM, which is making accounting more sexy for the domestic audience. But of course, our bigger intent is to get in international candidates who, like engineers now, are allowed a 3-year OPT on the student visa, and that sort of opens up a huge pipeline, huge talent pipeline, which sort of complements the entire outsourcing model, which a lot of firms are trying to do at scale. Some of them have succeeded, the larger ones, the smaller ones are struggling with that. What do you think of this entire Miles model of getting international candidates, accountants, experienced ones into the US?
I didn't understand it at first. It took me 2 swings to get it right. I was like, okay, what are we exactly doing? So you've taken another approach to this market, which I think is kind of cool. You're going to take somebody. So one of the complaints I always hear from people is, well, they're in India, they're not in our office, they're Philippines or South, they're not here, okay?
Now they're here.
Now they're here. That's exactly right. You brought them in a different way, okay? So I can get I can kind of get a version of the outsourcing model the old way, but now I got them in my office. Now they're integrated, they're with the team.
And they're on your payrolls.
And they're going to cost a little more than the old model because we're living in a different cost infrastructure.
Yeah.
But still, it's not so much a cheap hire, it's a quality hire that I can control. That's the problem I've seen with outsourcing is some firms will approach us as, well, it's too expensive for our clients won't accept it or whatever. Well, is it because it's going to the Philippines or India or South Africa or China or whatever, take a pick? Or is it because the client doesn't think because they're in your office? So you've kind of like done a hybrid here, fixing it, going, look, I'm going to bring a person from a different country. We're going to get them some training. We're going to get them into your office, and they're going to be just like an employee.
Absolutely.
The one thing I don't like about outsourcing, I don't get it. Okay, so firms like, it didn't work for us, so we're never going to do it again. We hired it. Okay, wait. So like if you hire a bad employee,
will I not hire again?
You never hire an employee again? It's the same thing. You gotta tweak the model. Okay, and
do better training, engagement.
Yeah, better selection for your outsourcing partner is. So if you want to really make an outsourcing program fail, you put a person in charge of it internally who doesn't really believe in it or isn't committed, or doesn't have time to manage it. You can pick the cheapest outsourcing company you can find, and then you wonder why it doesn't work. And then if you want to make it even worse, roll it out just throughout the whole firm. So when it fails miserably. Instead of rolling it out to 2 partners, test it, get the bugs out, make sure you got the right firm, you got the process down, and then roll it out. So we ran an outsourcing panel at the BDO's Alliance last year for tax. And they had like 150, 175 people in the room. They had 5 outsourcing providers up there and 5 of their clients up there. One of the clients really stuck out. And they said, we tried this 4 years ago. It was a freaking disaster. Just did everything wrong. They said then they redid it like 2 years later. Perfect. They said we couldn't live without it now. But the first trial was a bad trial because they went through the exact path. They just tried to roll it everywhere. It just didn't work, right? So everyone has a different flavor on how they do it. One of the other things that popped out in that meeting, which I thought was fascinating, is one of them said, yeah, we do 5,000 state and local tax returns a month through our outsourcing company.
Wow.
This is a big firm.
Wow.
Yeah. Never would have thought about salt's going over there, benefit plans are going over there, pieces of stuff are going over there. So instead of having my people know how to do salt work in all the different states, I outsource it. And I have somebody locally who manages the salting. I think that's the model for CAS going forward, by the way. You outsource the entire back office overseas, put all the tech stack in place, get everything ready, get your client accounting services people in the domestic US being the interface, make sure the numbers look kind of right, and then picking up the phone or meeting with the client.
You seem to have all the recipes.
We've been doing this a long time, okay? We've been doing a really long time.
So Bob, again, so back to my question. What do you think of this model where we go out of firms, and I'm seeking consulting advice here. It's a podcast, I get it free of cost.
There'll be a fee.
Right? So, we're getting accountants, experienced accountants into the US, and we go and tell the firms now, okay, you know what? You got these experienced accountants who work with you, and they have a 3-year OPT. And let's say I remove the H-1Bs and everything out of the picture, visa sponsorships out of the picture. Even then, they are with you for 3 years.
Yep.
And, some of them, they want to stay, you want to keep them, do the H-1Bs, may or may not happen. But after 3 years, even if they were to go remote, but you've had them in the office for 3 years. I mean, if I've worked with somebody...
They're ingrained at that point.
Exactly.
They're there. You got the relationship, you got everything you need to know. I think the model is very, very interesting. And I'd never heard it before. And now
we never heard of it before as well. So we just started to figure something out.
So you just made it up, right? That's how we do a lot of our things. We make it up and go, let's make it better, right?
Talking to universities, and we say STEM, and we say, why not accountants? They're like, okay, we can do accounting with analytics. Okay, hey, do it. And it's like...
It's a good idea because it gives people exposure and gets them in their offices and gets them really tight. And your point about if I go back to India, the Philippines, whatever later, and I'm still there. I can still work for you. I know all the people. I know your systems. Everything's perfect. I like the model. It's interesting to see how that's going to roll.
And what do you think of this entire move around STEM in accounting? I mean, in terms of accounting education, right? Now we're talking about technology with the firms. What do you think of accounting education and STEM? What's your deal there? What's your take there?
Define STEM for me. Make sure we're all understand what STEM is.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Perfect. I just want to make sure our audience also knew that too. Okay. So, look, there's no question firms are becoming much more technology literate, and the way this is going to go, it's going to become more and more technology literacy required to make a firm work. Okay. So
you need new talent who understands tech, right? You just don't need the traditional accountants who know tax returns and audit.
Yeah. I mean, My wife and I were out the other day, and there's some 2-year-old. They got their iPad in their hand, and they're using the iPad at 2. Okay, that's how people are being raised now, which is much more technology. Like the younger generation that started with cell phones right out of the box. You know, everything's technology driven. The only problem I don't like about some of the technology is people have a short attention span now. So if they can't find something on the internet, it's like, well, it doesn't exist. I looked for 3 minutes.
Google.
Yeah, Googled it, didn't come up. Or I Googled it and I Googled something crazy, okay? And that's the only thing about technology I think that has a problem right now is it does not teach people how to dig deeper into the solution, but you're not going to
That's why you have ChatGPT now. So go to Google and do ChatGPT and
yeah,
one of the two will have the answer for you.
Yeah. And some of the ChatGPT stuff's interesting, but you have to look at it and you got to modify it because it says some pretty crazy stuff sometimes.
Absolutely.
But it does it very quickly.
So very quickly, yeah. So the sort of solves for that short attention span.
But I like you've taken the outsourcing thing and gone a different direction definition of outsourcing. I like that. It's another layer where innovation is kind of coming into play here in this industry. And there's going to be more and more innovation like that in different sectors. I do believe somebody's going to come out with a model, by the way, where I'm working out of my garage in my house. I'm doing 50,000 tax returns. Wow. I can see that happening because it's all going to be done through AI. My job would be just to probably have an AI and then an overlay on top of that to make sure that the AI is doing the actual work properly and just processing stuff through, and they'll do it at a low cost. I see that kind of stuff happening. Well, look at there's an ad on TV for H&R Block the other day saying you don't need to use the what's the one you do your tax returns online? TurboTax. TurboTax.
Okay.
It said you don't need TurboTax anymore. H&R Block, you can do your returns for free online.
Wow.
I'm like, so I know that's not free. There's no way they're doing it for free. They're probably selling you loans or this project. But the point is, they're now selling this a different version.
The commoditized service is free, and then you build a freemium model around it.
Yes. It's just more and more innovation keeps coming and coming. So I just see someday some guy going to be sitting at home doing like all these tax returns, probably just pressing a button.
Innovation is not typically a word that we use in the accounting.
It is now. It is now. I mean, really, if these firms aren't innovating, they're dead. And they kind of all know it. That's why a lot of them are looking and going, I'm not the person that can help figure out how
many partners or managing partners are scared of you? They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to see your face.
They like us. We help them solve problems or give them new ideas. I mean, you know, we're not out there.
How many people have told you that you make them feel like shit?
No, nobody. You know what? They're all making so much money. I'm the one that doesn't feel it. You know. I'm like, I should have had an accounting firm. I tell you, my life.
But if you did an accounting firm, then you wouldn't be doing all the cool, sexy stuff like M&As.
Who knows? Who knows? A lot of these accounting firms are doing very cool, sexy M&A stuff and other stuff on their own. It just depends on the level of firm. 3 mistakes I had. Should have opened up an accounting firm. Definitely should have opened up a wealth management firm. And I should have opened up a Salesforce CRM consulting group because those things sell for astronomical numbers. I was shocked because we did an engagement looking for that for one of our clients.
Somebody hearing this podcast to become very rich.
Yeah, they sell for so much money. I should have done those things, but you know, I'm doing this instead. So
how do you keep up your energy? You seem to look pretty young.
It's the beard. Oh. It's our goatee beard look.
This is the branding. Yeah.
I got a lot of energy. I like this stuff. I'm passionate about this stuff. I'm top roll, so it's easy. Okay, and I always have been somebody who looks to make changes and innovate. So that. I drive everybody here nuts. In my office, drives them nuts. Like I come up with something new like every week, and they're like, "Wow, Jesus, we just figured this out." But now other people are here doing the same thing. They're like, "Okay, what we did before, like 3 or 4 months ago, isn't really what we need to do moving forward," because we look at this market and we're trying to figure out what's the pain. You're an accounting firm. What's your pain? How do I solve it? And the needle keeps moving. That's the problem. That's why you got to keep innovating. It's not the same thing. You just can't apply the same stuff anymore. That's why I'm curious to see someday there's going to be a revolution on these tax software and all software systems, because every firm I talk to, one of their major complaints is the thing doesn't work well.
So you see one innovation in tax coming up. What are the other innovations that you see that are coming up in the next 10 years? What do you think will change?
Definitely the big one is the shift to advisory. I mean, that's just, everybody's just doing that. There's no question about it. The other part is changing the mindset on pricing. Okay, is it bad to lose 9 out of 10? No, it's good to win 1 out of 10. And if you're right and you're doing it right, you're in the right spot. If you're winning too much, you're probably not charging enough. And you're also selling to the wrong people. So I think businesses, these firms are going to run a little bit more focused on other service areas and a little less focused on the core services. And that's where I think the big shift's happening right now. But the big shift's going to go into advisory. I'm kind of curious to see where this is all going to go with like the private equity markets. So like right now, private equity strategies, I'm gonna buy 5 firms, put them together, and I make 5 $20 million firms, a $100 million firm. Then I start making them a little more profitable. I'm gonna try and maybe sell.
But the one private equity comes in, they're sort of going to put a lot of focus on the bottom line. How do you expand services, cross-sell?
Yeah.
You already have, let's say, 300 clients. How do you go deeper within those clients?
Yes, but now, so let's say I put 5 of those firms together and I got a $150 million firm, right? Who's gonna buy that? So there's going to be another level of private equity that's going to want to buy that consolidated firm, and what are they going to do to it? See, I think they've got more resources, more ability to sell even deeper into the installed base, and provide more for the clients.
This seems to be a very interesting landscape, right? This is a very interesting time.
Firms are going to become one-stop centers, in my opinion, for everything. I'm going to be buying insurance there. I'm going to be buying technology. I'm going to be buying HR. I'm going to buy everything through the accounting firm. It may not be an accounting firm anymore. It may change. Accounting may be part of that new firm entity. But that's where I see, look, if
a full stack services firm. Yeah.
Look at a business owner. I got to go to a different company for workers' comp insurance. I got liability insurance. I got this. I got HR. I got payroll. Everything's all over the place. What if I just had one big service fee and it covered everything, and it did it right? Because I probably bought the wrong insurance. Okay, I didn't know it. I probably did something wrong with a cyber thing. I didn't know it. What if I went to one place that had this down to a science? That's where I think firms are going to go. Wow. I just don't know if they're going to be the ones in the lead or they're going to be part of it. And I kind of think that's where private equity's coming into tune here.
And of course, they can acquire not just accounting firms, they can acquire a wealth management firm, they can acquire a tech firm, sort of try to combine and, as you rightly said, right, try to sort of create those clusters.
Put them all together. Put them in clusters, a great word. So I'm an owner. I own a company down the street. Amazing. I'm going to one place and they take care of most everything. And I can focus on what I do best, which is either making cupcakes or making plastic jugs or selling something, whatever the hell it is I do really well. That's what I think firms are going to do.
Amazing.
But we're way away from that happening. So, but I think, yeah, it's going to kind of...
What are you doing at the Visionary Group to make it happen?
Right now, we're doing a lot of consolidation work.
Okay.
We're helping put firms together. We're helping them figure out what their plan is to go, okay, these are the other things you need to do. If you do a consolidation, great, but these are the other service areas you need to start looking at. Here's the training you need to put in place. Here's the other things you need to start doing. And a lot of it comes down to some basic stuff like, how do you price? Who's your client? To me, the client to me dictates a lot of the actions. So if I'm working for the wrong client, it ties up a lot of my resources. If I'm working for the right client, who can buy more, who values more what we're doing, that's the culture you want to be moving into. So to me, shedding through your client base is going to be a huge part of this. The question is where are all the smaller clients going to go that nobody wants? I think they're going to end up in the garage with that guy doing 50,000 returns, but we don't know. The mystery right now. People can't find another accounting firm. So if you were one of my clients and I was an accounting firm and I fired you, however I fired you or told you I couldn't work with you anymore, whatever, you would probably have a hard time finding another firm to do your work. So if that's the environment we're in, why am I not charging more?
Amazing.
I should be charging more. But I don't think I can charge more, or I've got a relationship. The other thing that's kind of interesting little twist here, let's get into smaller communities. So I'm in New York City, right? Chicago, LA. There's 1 million people around, right?
So Bob, basically here, right, the mindset shift requires certain skill sets and something that you really need to get people out and really put them. Let's say, I was checking, you did your MBA from DePaul, and we worked with DePaul on an accounting program. It's different, but
well, you did do your research, didn't you?
Yes. I did, of course. But the question is, right? Why don't we have, let's say, an executive program? Let's say, for lack of a better university, let's say a Harvard Business School executive program for partners and managing partners, so that they get a Howard alumni status, and they really come out and they take the mindset shift seriously. And I'm just thinking,
well, there's programs out there that do that, but the issue is they're all independent programs, and those programs are all evolving too. And do they teach a managing partner how to be a managing partner?
Absolutely, leadership.
Yeah, and does that managing partner even need it? Not everybody recognizes they need it. The good managing partners are always open to just different ideas, right? They're wide open, because that's how they realize that they're smart. They know they don't know everything either. Nobody knows everything.
I think I have a good idea that we'll discuss offline.
I'm going to got a great idea.
I'm going to park it, but I'm not going to move on to the rapid fire. Otherwise, we're going to keep going on and on.
Stop right now. Innovation just occurred. It just happened.
We'll just talk about this after the podcast. Bob.
Microsoft, watch out. It's going to take it over. Okay.
Now I have a bunch of rapid fire questions for you, Bob. We got to
fire away.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with like warm up coffee or tea.
Oh, coffee all day.
And how many coffee?
Depends on the day. First of all,
oh, your wife's not
straight
listening.
black and probably 4. Okay. Straight black, probably 4.
So how do you sleep at night?
I do about 6 hours a night.
Okay. And are you an early bird or night owl?
I got to drag myself to bed. I'm a night owl.
Okay.
That's why I only sleep 6 hours a night.
Did you ever take a vacation?
Yeah, I just went.
What's your favorite
I was in the
vacation?
Caribbean last week.
Wow. And what's your favorite vacation destination?
Honestly, our house in Wisconsin, because we're on a lake and we have family that comes up, and that's kind of cool. But so we do that as much as we can. It's only about 3 hours from here. But I don't really have a favorite destination. We like to travel to different places. We do a lot of driving trips. We're up to Canada quite a few times. Canada is really nice, very clean, very polite people. It's kind of a joke, but it is true. It's really a nice country up there. But we're open. We travel all over the place. So Japan coming up, 2025. Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So you were in the Caribbean in 2024, Japan in 2025. What else on your wish list?
Oh, I have no idea. My wife pushes more of that than I do. And she's better at it.
Okay. Back to work. What's the most challenging task that you've accomplished at the Visionary Group?
Not going out of business after doing this for 27 years, because we had a couple of moments there. COVID was one of them. We're like, well, this is going to be interesting. Everything's shut down, and what's going to happen? Because, in the COVID year, we didn't do one transaction. Not one. No M&A work. Not one transaction when COVID hit.
And why is that so?
Because firms were trying to survive. They didn't know what was going to happen either.
Got it.
So everybody kind of like
Slow down, and again, it's very quick for these guys to get conservative anyways.
So when you're doing 20 transactions a year and you go down to none, and a lot of your revenue comes off of merger and acquisition transactions.
But I think now you're doing 40 a year, I don't know how many, but now you're doing much more than that. So
you do about 20 a year.
20 a year.
That's an average.
But after COVID, have things picked up now?
Oh yeah. In fact, the only issue that there's probably not as much volume as there could be more. People are trying to figure out this whole private equity model. Do we do it now? Does it work? Should we wait? Personally, I think waiting is going to be a mistake. And then if we don't do private equity, what else we need to do? And it's more complicated. Values have changed, and firm values have changed because of the private equity money. It's more confusing, so it slows things down a little bit. But that to me is one of the most challenging. I was always trying to stay in business. By the way, I've been debt free since day one. I have no line of credit. I've never had any debt.
You're a consulting guy, so you make money up front.
Well, if either I don't make the money and I just don't pay myself, or I make money and I don't have any debt chasing me. So yeah, I'd like that.
So what's been the one best thing of working at creating, building the Visionary Group?
Honestly, it's all the change. All the change. I love the change. Because
you're a disruption guy. You just don't like status quo.
It's not so much disruption. It's more innovation.
Evolution.
But the disruption creates the innovation. It's like no one would be doing anything different. There wouldn't be an outsourcing company in existence if we had an unlimited supply of people in the U.S.
Absolutely.
Never happened.
You need a problem statement, and then you need to solve that problem statement. That's where change comes in.
But there's so many disruption factors occurring in this industry right now. The question is, how do we begin to address them? And the main one right now is firms are making really good money. So it's hard to sit down and go, well, you got a screwed up firm. Even though I know I have a screwed up firm, because I'm making really good money, I'm just going to continue to make the money. And I don't blame them for doing that either. But at some point you have to look at it and go, I've got some holes in the firm or some things I need to do different. How do I begin to fix them? And that may require some investment. I think one of the investment changes that's going to happen in these firms is starting to pay for some of the deferred comp liabilities up front. But that means as a partner, I make less money if I'm going to put money in towards the deferred comp program to pay
retired partners.
Your liability, yeah, or my own retirement later. So if I'm putting money away in my own deferred comp program by taking $10,000 less a year over the next 20 years or whatever the numbers are, that's a hard decision to make sometimes. So, what else we got? Rapid fire. What's the next one?
One word for your leadership style.
The word they would use would be different than my word.
What's their word and what's yours?
Friendly.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Okay.
I don't like confrontation. That's 2 words or 5 words. I'm not sure. But,
but I'm sure you do a lot of confrontations.
Unfortunately, you do. But if you do it right, there's minimized confrontation.
So if you were not an accountant or in the accounting industry, what would Bob Lewis do?
I'd be playing in the NBA. Yeah, National Basketball Association. Yeah, slowest,
Oh, wow.
most
That's
oldest,
very cool.
oldest guard out there. Yep.
What's one of your favorite traditions at the Visionary Group?
Favorite traditions?
Yep.
We do a holiday thing every year, which is kind of cool. But we do a lot of bonuses here. So one of the things, no, seriously, we do group bonuses. I guess if you want to look at a tradition, we do group bonuses based on the overall firm success. So everybody gets a piece.
Wow.
Everybody gets a piece.
Wow. And do you wire the money or do you actually give out physical checks like the old times?
No, we can't divide the money. That would be illegal. We'd be on the table. We have to give out checks that account for accountability. Yes.
Okay. Something on your bucket list that you haven't done yet.
Lost weight. I would love to lose some weight. Seems to be an impossible task.
I'm going to talk to you about keto and...
No. But the bucket list, I mean, look, I would love to see firms drop in an exit and transition niche inside their practices. It's something I've been pushing for 4 or 5 years now because they've got all these clients that are looking to figure out how to get out. We've got a process. We know how to do it. It's just getting firms to focus on it is a little bit harder. But it kind of ties into our M&A side. We wouldn't be selling to firms, business clients, but there's a process we put in place. It's an interesting area. But that's a big one on my bucket list.
Amazing. If Bob Lewis were to have a superpower, what would that be?
Wow. I would make 48-hour days.
Oh, wow. I love it. So
48-hour days.
your clients could make a lot more money, a lot more billable hours.
Yeah. I can get a lot more done in 48 hours. So I would probably never sleep. If I could figure out a superpower, not being having to sleep, that would be great.
I mean,
it's a waste of time.
So basically you're saying either I'm going to increase revenues or I'm going to reduce cost, right? Either I'm going to increase the hours or I don't sleep and I still get more hours.
Even if it's not business, I can do more stuff. If I got more time in a day, I can do more other things too. I mean, you can make your money and you can do other things. Like, you can do exercise, you can read, write, whatever you want to do. One of our problems, I don't have enough time to write anymore. I used to write a ton of articles. I don't have time to write anymore. It's just...
So Bob, we also have, in our model, we now have a lot of international accountants for the first time ever, right? So you had a lot of engineers coming from India and a few other parts of the world into the US and working for tech firms, and tech industry has done it forever, right? So they outsource work, but they also have international engineers come and work for them in their US offices. So they sort of build up an amazing ecosystem, which was missing in accounting. And what we're trying to do at Miles is, again, not just outsourcing, also bring, so you may send 100 jobs, but you also get 10 accountants who work for you, in here. And one of the incentives, one of the exciting facts that we've seen with a lot of these international accountants, especially from India, is the excitement around the American dream. Define American dream.
Well, I think that the American dream has changed, okay? It used to be, a land of economics and everybody had cars and everything you wanted, right? I think that's changed a little bit, but I do believe the one thing about the American dream, if that's what we're still looking at, the American dream is there is a lot of freedom here. Sometimes people make a lot of bad choices with that freedom, but you got the ability to make a choice, which is, to me, kind of important.
What would be your top advice to these international accountants who are coming into the US? What would you tell them?
I would focus on looking at how do you become more consultative and advisory focused. You still need to have the basics. You still need to be able to know how to do financial statements and tax returns, but you got to be able to look beyond that and look at what the client's trying to figure out. It's the consultative side that really separates people, and that also is not just a selling skill. It's what people are going to pay for. They're looking for advice and direction. I can get compliance anywhere. I can't get advice. That's the hard part. And when it all comes down to it, it's all relationship driven. It's whether I like you, I love how you talk about it, you're responsive. That is what really creates the value here inside most of these professional service firms. Because look, here's a good challenge. If you're a tax provider, right, and I'm your client, how do I know if you're doing a good job?
How much tax dollars I save for you?
I don't know that. I have no idea I have no idea if you're good at it. I've gotten a way to measure it because it's a skill I can't judge if you're doing it well. For all I know, the next person could save me even more money or do something different. So what I'm buying is more the relationship and the trust that I think you know what you're doing. If I go to get my car window repaired because it's not going up, I go into the dealer, whatever, the window goes up and down, I know they fixed it. Your stuff, it's a little bit of blind leap. That's what people don't get. It's not selling just a service. It's selling the relationship and the trust factor because they can't understand what you actually do. So it's hard to judge your technical skills. That's one of the things that's been a flaw in the accounting world. They don't do a really good job of selling that.
And how do you think we can sort of build or augment the ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, we're not just talking about the CPA firms and the accountants getting into the profession. What would be, let's say, your top advice to accounting educators?
How to get more people into the profession?
So top advice to accounting educators: how should they teach accounting? What should they do? What should be like one thing that they should do differently?
Teach them that accounting isn't just a technical component. It's what to do with the numbers, not how to just create the numbers. I think that's because when I went to school, which by the way they had school back then, it was a long time ago. They would teach you more. Everything was technical. Everything was how to do a calculation, how to do this, not what to do with it and how to interpret it. That to me is a big miss. Like if I were to go back and go to a high school and teach in a high school, I would love to teach these kids different ways on what the different careers are. I think that would be a great class for like a sophomore in high school. Like, here's what an engineer really does, okay? Because most of them go into tracks. They're like, I want to be an engineer. Why? Well, my father was an engineer. My uncle was an engineer. So they go into engineering, then they go to school for 4 years in college to be engineers, and they get to doing engineering. They're like, I don't like engineering. But then they're already trapped. And engineering was just a pick of, it could be anything that they go into. To me, that would be really important. Or I'd go back into the colleges and teach people how to sell. Because people do not know how to sell themselves or how to sell, period.
And what would be your top advice to, let's say, state CPA societies who are an important part of the ecosystem, again, trying to sort of grappling with the challenge?
Wow, you're laying that one right in. Separate your training. Separate your training between the CPAs that are in a private company, manufacturing distribution, versus those in public accounting. Because you go into there, it's a mixed session. You got people in the room who don't have a clue what's going on in the accounting firms, and you got people in the accounting firms that don't really want to hear the other things, and the training becomes kind of middle of the road.
You're like,
separate the two.
You're the perfect consulting guy, Bob. So I'm going to take a lot of advice from you, but we got to close the podcast now. But thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And guys, that was Bob Lewis. One of the most influential accounting thought leaders. You get that award every year.
Yeah, sure. I gave you that, yeah. 6. I think I'm number 6 or 7, definitely. I don't know. I know. Just making it.
But thank you, Bob, for your time. And this is really amazing. And I need more time. But bye-bye, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.